So welcome everybody. Delighted to have you all here with us after a week's break, and delighted to have Mark Howard, Dr. Mark Howard, with us this week. This is the 11th session, I believe, or maybe it's 12. I'm not very good with numbers, but I know it's the penultimate session. We've got one more next week, and that'll be the end of this series. Who knows what's coming next? So obviously having the contributors to the book, Inside Out Transformation, coming along on a weekly basis to share a little bit more. I'll be asking some questions of Mark in the first half an hour or so, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. So please feel free to raise your digital hand, and I can ask you to unmute at the point in time there's a break for me to come. So would just like to read out a little bit of your official bio, Mark, because there will be people who will see the recording, I'm hoping, who may not know anything about you. They won't know what a wonderful human being you are and your history. So I'm just going to read a little bit. So Dr. Mark Howard is founder of the Three Principles Institute in Brentwood, California. He is a licensed psychologist and is recognized as one of the pioneers who first brought the three principles into the field of psychology. Dr. Howard has been teaching private clients, families, businesses, professionals, and mental health practitioners about the principles since 1982, along with mentoring and training. And in 2008, Dr. Howard received the Outstanding Career Service Award from the Santa Clara County Psychological Association for bringing the principles to Santa Clara County. So welcome, Mark. Really lovely to have you here with us today.
Oh, thank you, Sheila. I'm so happy to be here. And yeah,
we've been having a little chat behind the scenes about the book, and yeah, just I'd love it. Yeah, maybe that's a really nice place to start. Not anything that I prepared, but we were chatting about it. Just, you said you'd been dipping into some of the chapters. What do you think? What are you seeing? What do you feel about the book?
Well, I love this book, and I think it really there's a few things that I've seen coming in reading the book. One is you can really see how the feeling just is within each chapter, that you really see you can really get the feeling of this understanding. And the other thing I was really struck by how differently people share the same understanding, and really get to the truth of it. And I was I was thinking, oh my God, I don't share it like that. I wish I could share it like so-and-so did. I got it, And so how easy it is for people to, we were talking about this, it really helps with people seeing that it's really valuable to just share it your way. As you could see in each chapter, each person, each contributor is really sharing the same thing their way. And that's really beautiful about this understanding and getting to the same point. And I think that's it, the value of just seeing the feeling being in each chapter and the value for that. So yeah, that's what's coming to mind now.
Yeah, and I just posted something in a Facebook group because I always read the chapter sort of in preparation for each call, and I just felt drawn to share. I asked you in the chapter about it, there's no right way to do this thing called coaching and therapy from the three principles, and you shared a really nice piece about and how you'd heard, I don't know if I shared that in the Facebook group, but in the chapter, you'd heard Elsie Spittle sharing about listening, and you were like, that's not how I do it, but it didn't matter. It wasn't how you do it. It's just interesting, as you say, and it's just really powerful to see that we hear things in different ways, and we go about it in a way that makes sense to us and what we're hearing and how it's a process, isn't it? And I think you said that as well. It's forever, we're forever students, and we're always going to be seeing something different, something new, which means you're not getting it right, you're not getting it wrong. We're just in process, and we're learning as we go. I think that's a beautiful thing for people, especially who are just starting out on their journey of coaching or sharing the principles, that there isn't, you know, there's no comparing, no comparing.
Well, you know, really quickly, in the very first few months, I was lived close by George Pransky, and he and I would meet regularly. And I attended one of his seminars, like, you know, a couple of months after, you know, meeting Sid and moving in this direction of this understanding. And, you know, George is just great with metaphors. So I'm thinking, oh my God, you know, to teach this right, I've got to learn how to do metaphors. And I actually believe that. And went to try to find a book about how to share metaphors, you know. And luckily I woke up very quickly that you know, what people hear is not so much, you know, the words that you're sharing, they really hear where you're coming from. So if you're really sharing the meaningfulness of this for you and exactly what looks true for you in that moment when you're sharing, that's what touches people. And you'll have your way. It'll be different than anybody else's way, but I'll tell you that if you share in that feeling, the depth of your understanding for what you know now, you're sharing like everybody that contributed to your chapter. You're sharing in the same place they come from. So that's the beauty of this understanding. You know, it's going to come through people differently. But if you speak to the truth of it for you, what you really know, and talk to people, talk to somebody about that, it will resonate with them. And so that's what does it. It's really that what connects with people is where you're coming from. So the more you're genuine with your truth of the principles, the more people are going to resonate with you, are going to be touched. Yeah. And the other piece is, I think, you know, Sid really helped us with saying, you know, there's infinite levels of understanding. So really, that's the hope with the principles. You can always see more, and you can always transcend the habitual thinking, you know, you've been in your life. But it also means that there's always more for you to understand about these principles. And so if you stay like a student, I love that you use that word. It really is being a student. You'll always find more insights into this understanding.
I think, quite honestly, it's really helped me to see that I am a forever student, because there have been times when I'm like, I'm not getting this, and I thought I understood it, and then I suddenly don't know anything, and it's like everything's gone. So this, you know, really seeing that I'm a forever student, that's okay now with me. It's like, okay, this is how it is. This is just how it is. It comes, it goes, it comes, it goes, and there's probably something more for me to see. And I love it. I mean, that's what everybody talks about who's been around this for a long time, is that there's always more to see. And Sid talked about that too. I know I've heard him say that. It's a never-ending process. It's a never-ending journey, which I think is beautiful. One of the things in the chapter that really stands out, and I know I've heard you talk about this before, I think is particularly with you, Mark, is when you feel like, and I think it goes back to the point you're making about it's where we're speaking from, is you talk about you catch yourself sometimes not in the feeling, or you're talking about something that you've talked about before, so you're kind of talking about it in a sort of, I suppose, an intellectual way versus a feeling way, and what I think is different about what you share is you say you apologize, you stop, you apologize to the person, and you say you're going to take some time to reflect, or you apologize and you say that people really, really appreciate that because it's human to human. I've heard you say that many times. And I'd love you if you could just share a bit about that, because I think that's so important for us as we're, you know, working with people, that we give ourselves permission, I guess, to really see that it's okay to say, hey, I'm lost, and just, regroup and take some time out.
Yeah, well, it comes from the deep knowing, or the knowing that, let's just take the coaching format, the work you're doing, in any health work that any of you are doing, or educational work. The truth is, you're being guided by the intelligence of mind. And so that's what you want to get a feeling for more and more, that you're really guided. And why I'm saying that is because when I'm sitting there, and let's say I get intellectual, or I say more than I really know in the moment, or I talk too much, it will occur to me. It's not like I've got a strategy I'm following. I'm just me. And that's kind of human to human with your clients. And so it will occur to me, oh man, you're talking too much, or you know what, you lost the feeling there. You're just sharing something that you just think is good. You don't really have the feeling for it today. It will just come to me. And so I've learned to trust that. It's not like I look for that as the strategy of coaching, or have check boxes about how I'm doing. I just trust that if I'm me with another person or with a group, that guidance will let me know how I'm doing, really. And so before I used to get a bit insecure when I noticed that, and then I try to talk even more. But I've come to just be comfortable knowing that you're off, and you're human, and it's going to happen. And so then, I try to reconnect. My job then is to go back and get connected back to the feeling, get into rapport, or listen better. And so sometimes what comes to me is to just tell my clients or the group, you know what, I just lost the feeling there. I thought I really knew this, but it's not really what I want to share from. So can we go back? Is it okay with you if we just go back to where you started? Things like that, to just get back to the connection with the client in a way that we can regroup, just around the feeling for it. Or I can listen deeper to the client, because they know, people feel you leaving your feeling and just saying something that you think might get you, might work, rather than something that's really true for you. So, but I want to emphasize that this is going to be different for all of you. It's going to come from you just recognizing, oh my God, I'm a bit off right now in some way. I've either lost the feeling, I'm talking too much, I got a little insecure. Gosh, I started thinking about the grocery shopping I've got to do at the end of the session. It'll just come to you, and then you can take care of it. You go back and just get the feeling right again first. That's the utmost thing to do, is you've got to get the feeling right, the connection back, before you start sharing again. So that's really the principle of the thing. And the truth of the matter is to sit and you're being guided. So you'll know, you'll see it. Sometimes for me, over the years, I'm driving home from a day with people, and I'm driving home and it occurs to me, oh my God, I missed that with so-and-so. I could have asked a little more. So you're always going to be seeing things that, you could have done better, or you might have taught a little more in this area, or you may have missed something. But, again, that's always going to be there to be helpful to you. And you could let it percolate and see if it is something that you can bring into your practice for, your next sessions. But it rests on really, really trusting, having faith that you're being guided by the intelligence of mind, because you, with your client or group, you're connected. All of you are mind connected to one another. So that intelligence is working there within the group, within you. And so you just be yourself, and it will guide you. That's where that was coming from, Sheila.
Yeah, and thank you for pointing out that it's not a strategy. I think that's so important. It's like, and that it's actually absolutely available to each of us, as you say.
It's available.
And
yes.
and trusting it. It's,
yeah. Because I'm mentoring now a lot, and people are coming from different coaching institutes, I'm not talking about the 3 principles ones, but the national ones, or the ones, international coaching federations. And somebody's telling, we're talking together about this person, would gain more if they could just listen deeper. And they're talking about how, they've got a checkbox from their coaching training that they got to listen, and they got to ask these questions, a list of 4 or 5 questions, you see. So I just wanted to help people see, you in this work with the principles, you're not coming from that. You'll know what to ask. You'll see what's needed. And so you don't need to worry about a checkbox. In fact, if you start looking at a checkbox, I'm not saying you do, I'm just giving this as an example, okay? You're making assumptions of what's needed. And so who are you listening to now? See, you're listening to yourself making assumptions. Oh, okay, this person really needs to hear the thought-feeling connection. You see? So now you're going to guide your coaching from what you think, rather than letting your coaching come from the flow of really listening to your client and letting the intelligence of mind guide you. So that's why there's no strategy, because strategy gets you back to listening to you. Oh yeah, did I do point number 5? I'm being facetious, but I just wanted to underline that, because I hear that a lot when people are coming from these international trainings and they're new to the principles way of coaching, that they have check boxes in their minds, and you don't want anything in your mind. So anything personal in your mind, you want something there, but nothing personal about you in your mind. No opinion, categories, assumptions, judgments. You want to be quiet about that.
So what would what would your number 1 piece of advice, maybe you've covered this, maybe not. What would your number 1 piece of advice if there was somebody new coming along? As you just said, you're mentoring coaches who are just new to the principles. So if somebody's listening to this who's a psychologist or a therapist or a coach who just bumped into my book, for example, and they've never heard of the principles before, and they're looking for, and I'll be honest, this is how I'm running some Amazon ads at the moment, and one of the lines is, if you want to create sustainable change for your clients, sort of, this is the book for you. So if somebody comes across that, it's like, what would your number 1 piece of advice be to somebody new of how to create sustainable change for their clients? Because that's the sort of thing they're after, right?
Wow, that's a great question. No, really, because I don't know, there's one thing. I think, what's coming to mind for me really is, if somebody read your book and said, I read Sheila's book and she's saying there's sustainable change. And so I'm wondering, how can you help me find that? I would start with listening to the person. I would start with, well, what touched you about Sheila's book? What came alive for you? What did you see in there that you want to move in this direction? You see, I want to be guided about what's valuable for that particular person by what I hear that touched them. You see, so again, it's back to Sheila. So I guess maybe the most important thing is listen first. That may be the first thing. But what I mean by listen is be in a consciousness of wondering, what's this person? Why is this person? What's this person looking for by looking at this with you? What did they see? What touched them? You see? So if you hear that, then you'll know what's the most important thing to share at that time. I mean, there's not really one thing, except you really have to, you can't, I'm just saying this fresh today. I have no thoughts about this except what's coming to mind for me here. And I'm praying that mind is guiding me well. I really do think you want to listen to the person that reaches out to you. And well, she said something about sustainable change, I said, well, what did that mean for you? What's different for you looking at sustainable change? Well, people that I've talked to, they keep coming back. And I say, well, yeah, that happened to me too, until I saw there was a way to talk to them about, now I go into teaching, where their experience comes from. Is that something you're looking for? So I'm right in the wheel well of the listening and just being curious with them. And then I'll get to a point of where to start.
Beautiful. I think mind has been leading you very well, Marcus. It makes sense to me. It resonates with me completely. Yeah.
Well, that's the important thing.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I'm hoping, people will be watching these videos. They might not bring, they might not have bought the book yet, but they might just bump into these videos. So it's all about whatever comes up and we can share in terms of, I think perhaps what the distinction is between coaching and practicing from the 3 principles versus whatever other people's traditional practices are. That's it's drawing out the distinctions. And I think the deep listening, the listening with nothing on our minds, the being present with people is very different from what most people have been taught. I think that's a huge distinction, something that keeps coming up over and over again in the book as well, asking, all of you, all 15 of you, that was back to listening, back to rapport, back to connection, which is listening and being present with people. I think it's such a huge point.
Well, really quick before we check in with people, if you're looking for somebody who may be new and looking at the video and came across sustainable change, the only way a person continues to live from a change is that they've had a realization of where their experience of life comes from. They have a realization that the way they're using this gift of thought is really why they're experiencing life the way they are. And and having an insight into that, not an intellectual, like cognitive practice knowing of it, but the fact that they can realize the truth of that for themselves, that's what sustains them. Because like you said earlier, you're not always living from that understanding, but you'll recognize, oh my God, my thinking's off, and you can go back and change your mind, you see? And that's what allows people to really sustain change once they get that understanding. Once they have that insight, they don't have to really go any further. Like Sid said, once you see the truth of this, you don't have to search anymore. Now I love learning more, so I keep going, but there is the truth to that, and that's what allows people to sustain their change. So I just wanted to speak to what you just said, Sheila, that people may have just heard that or read that and look at this video and wonder about that. So I just wanted to share the answer to that, the way I see it.
No, that's beautiful, because it is generally an insight. It's an insight-based model, isn't it? I mean, that's what we see the shift, a true sustainable shift, is through insight. And as you say, not intellectual, but a real deep, insightful insight. Yeah, that's what does the heavy lifting. Well, yeah, as you said, shall we open it up and see if anybody wants to put their digital hand up and come have a conversation with Mark, ask a question, share anything that you've heard along the way, anything at all. This is,
I would love that. I really love interacting with people and hear what you have to think and see if we could discover anything together.
Don't be shy. Shy is just a thought, And in the meantime, I can easily keep going. Shall we just have a... Okay, so here's my next... In the meantime, please feel free to put your hands up and join the conversation. So one of my questions that I have got is, and I think you have spoken to this, but maybe you could unpack it a little bit more, because again, it's something that I advertise for the book about impact, and it's what creates impact for clients from Mark Howard's perspective.
Did you ask me that for the book?
No, I didn't.
Oh.
No.
Oh. What creates impact?
Impact for clients, yeah. It's kind of a buzzword at the moment, impact. Yeah.
Well, the only thing that I see that can impact a human being is that they hear something from their wisdom. They hear something from wisdom about their nature or the nature of life, really. So they're looking out at the circumstances of life and they're thinking, how do I handle this circumstance? The only thing that's going to be impactful for them about navigating life is if they really listen to their own wisdom, if they can awaken this wisdom. What Sid says, knowledge we already have about what? The nature of life, our true nature. You see, we already have it. So the impact would be a person dipping into that or an awakening, and they get a little nugget. That's the impact, which we've called insight or realization. So if you're called on in your health work, that's what you're guiding people toward. You're working at it until they get that nugget. Now, we've been blessed to see that if people gain some understanding of what they truly are a part of, for example, this spiritual energy of mind, just for an example, and where their experience gets created from within through thought and consciousness, let's say, your way, if they see that their way from you sharing your way, they'll get a nugget. And that's where the impact comes. And you stay at it until they get an impact, until they're impacted. You stay with it. Oh my goodness, we've been talking about thought and how it's creating your mood for like the last five sessions, what's going on that if you're having difficulty seeing that? So you stay at it. You see, why do you stay at it? Because that's all people need to see. That's it. They have to see it their way, but that's all people have to see. Once they get that nugget and it aligns, they see it their way, they're set. Then they come up with their own strategies. People will say, oh my God, I didn't think about this before, but I think every thought that I have. I engage every thought I have. No wonder I'm wiped out and burned out. I don't have to do that. That's their nugget. See, that's the impact of my sharing in a group these principles my way. That's what happened to someone. That's the impact. So that's impact, is that a person awakens a bit of wisdom, and it comes through what we call it as a insight or realization. All it is people rise to a higher level of consciousness than the one they were living at. So they have a higher level of understanding, and they're living now from this level of understanding. And like Sid said, well, there's a few above that, So that's the impact. And so it's you sharing your understanding of Sid's teachings, your way. And it's not every session you're teaching three principles. You're sharing what you know in that moment from, and what your listening is guiding you to guide that person to wake up their knowing, their wisdom for it. It's not going to be your way, but you're going to. So that's what's impactful.
Yeah, that's really cool. And what occurs to me is it could also be, it is the guided piece, isn't it? In the moment, it could also be guided to ask more questions or to sit in silence, or it might not just be to share our own experiences or share our insights. Yeah, it just occurs to me that it can be anything. it could be anything that occurs to you in the moment, not necessarily just sharing our own insights or our own stories or metaphors that we're not good at telling.
Yeah, that's right. It's being human yourself. So again, you may have to listen more, you may ask more questions, but ultimately, and I don't know if you all would see this, but ultimately, a person needs to have an insight into what's creating the experience they're having in the moment. And they'll see other things, and there's a lot more that they can understand and gain insights into, but that's the impact. Where's my experience coming from? But because there's billions of people that don't know where it's really coming from. Yeah, but it's not like, you work your way, you're not always just sharing the principles, Yeah. But yeah, okay, we have some hands up.
Yeah, I see Linda. Linda had her hand up first, so I'm going to go to Linda. Would you like to unmute, Linda? You're not unmuted yet. We can't hear you.
What occurs to me,
Sheila, this is Ellen.
What's that? Is that I have to drop expectations. I'm there to do something. I'm there to even to share something. I'm going to share, but if somebody says I want to, what I want to change, it's like if I go in there thinking on that, then again, like you said, Mark, you follow that agenda.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I told Bob Garner once, I'm not there to change these people. And I was like, maybe I shouldn't say that. That's my job. But that can screw me up a little bit too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah. Oh, my goodness. Yeah. Expectations again, that's a beautiful point to share. Because again, that's our thinking. When I was working in the medical center, I would have some pretty difficult, my thinking, but it still is true. I mean, difficult clients, and I had expectations that, oh, okay, you're like, why aren't you better yet? And and that gets in the way. And I love the freedom that gives, Linda, the freedom. And if you're there up to something, uh, then it takes away from the working together with the group or with another human being, and just being there together, connected to this wisdom, connected to mind.
So then that session can become, in my mind, about me. Did I meet my expectations?
Yeah,
So the focus
yeah,
now is on me.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah, because if I looked at it early on, when I got caught in an expectation, this person should be better by now. It was my own insecurity. It was about me, and so now it was about me. This client had to operate according to me rather than their own pace. So yeah, it's really beautiful. All of that is about me. So really mastering being able to listen to another human being, that's a lifetime of evolution, because it's so subtle. um, there are just so many subtle thinking that can get it to be about me, in a session. And so, but just recognizing that, letting it go, getting back, getting quiet, get the feeling, and listen some more. Yeah.
I mean, Mark, I can't tell you, I mean, you talk about, kind of agenda, but when you were doing the training there in Santa Clara County with us, you did have kind of a structure, kind of steps that I tell you were really, really helpful to a lot of people who were just starting out, even those of us, because it was sort of a little bit of a framework. When we felt like we weren't going anyplace, we kind of had something we can kind of like refresh ourselves with, and the feeling, or we called it rapport. Are you in the
Yeah.
feeling? And
Yeah.
then the listening,
Yeah.
and then the other thing that you taught us was to ask permission. Again, that takes it off of me. It's not about me. Now I'm acknowledging and respecting this other person before I say anything. You think this would be helpful to you? And so when we feel it all kind of sliding sideways, we had kind of reference points, especially for a lot of people who were just coming out of jails and they had never been in front of a group before. What the heck, And a lot of people who had never ever worked with groups, it did give them some reference points. And it's everything that you're pointing out today, but it was just sort of in a more laid out formal fashion. And that was really helpful for all of us. It's sort of like those reference points, reminders. And so, yeah, it's just kind of, but the beauty of what you just said, guided by the intelligence of mind.
Mhm. Yeah, well, when I mean, I think they're still beautiful reference points. I think they're really beautiful because really, I mean, look at it in your own work. All of you here, look at it in your own work. Before you really can be impactful, if you were to, let's just call it sharing, or whether you were going to teach this understanding, it makes sense that you'd want to have rapport with the person. You want to have a good feeling, right? You want to, and then you'd want to be guided to how to share that by your listening. So they were great reference points that, really came from before you really can share with impact. you know, you really have to have rapport and listen well, and let your sharing be guided by the listening. Otherwise, people get defensive, or they don't listen to you, or you know, they turn away because they don't even feel connected to you. So those reference points are helpful. It's just that, you know, they're there in the background. So you kind of like, when you quiet down, it kind of occurs to you, oh man, I better go back there and get the rapport again. Yeah. Thanks, Linda. That was
Yeah,
beautiful.
thanks, Linda, for sharing. That's great. So Tom, would you like to unmute?
Yes, hi, Mark.
Hi, Tom.
Nice to see and hear you again. I wanted to ask you a question about your experience and something that I've been kind of seeing. So we've talked like multiple times about, you know, why maybe having a strategy or an agenda or a technique is not a good idea. And at the same time, I have to say that when I listened to Sid, the most powerful thing that he ever said that struck me was to look within. And if you look within, you just might find a nice feeling. And to me, if I just forget about everything else, like, man, that is so powerful to me, and it's enough. So I'm wondering, does it ever occur in your meetings with people to just, you know, talk about what Sid said in that case and say, hey, in this moment, do you want to just look within, see what we find? Does that ever come up?
Well, all of what Sid has said to me that I've heard at seminars, or when we would rarely have time to meet with him, comes up.
Mhm.
So the whole thing about strategy is, the only thing about strategy, or or sharing something that really meant something to you that looks like direction, is that it come from the feeling in the moment with the person, not something that you think you need to do. It just occurs to you, it feels right, it fits, you know. It's so, yeah,
Right.
I mean, all of the things I heard from Sid, I have shared, you know,
Yeah.
like I just shared here about stop searching, you know.
Yeah.
So I will, and I will tell people what made sense to me, and I
Yeah.
will tell people how I use it, but it comes right for the moment. So
Mhm.
there could be 2 days of meeting with clients that I don't really share much about what it meant for me. And then one day I'm sharing that a lot. It just fits right. It's not like a strategy in that way. It's not
Yeah.
rigid, I guess what I'm saying, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, if that fit whatever I was hearing, and the connection I was having with a group or with clients, or it just felt right to share that about looking within, I would say it.
Yeah.
But then, you know, I would also want to follow it up and see what sense it made to people, you know.
Right.
See,
Right.
now
Right.
I think Sid, now I'm not talking for him, but I think he was coming from the same place. It just felt right for him in that moment of the seminar, for example, or in the audio tape, to share that.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
to me, there's a lot of things that to me he shared that could look like a strategy that have been very helpful to me. Like, one of the things that's been very helpful to me, he says, it's just love and understanding. My goodness,
Yeah.
that made so much sense to me, and I keep using that. That's been beautiful, because I when I heard that, it was in a, you know, listening to him in an afternoon, and what he was saying, you know, was, I got a feeling for it, but I couldn't understand it. And then he says, it's just love and understanding. And I said, well, I can do that. Now, here's the difference. I'm not consciously, you know, going around in the day saying, Mark, go to love and understanding, go to love and understanding.
Right.
It just occurs to me. But so there's been a lot of things that Sid has said that direct me to something deeper.
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, I guess the reason I bring it up is I've had such a beautiful feeling for it working in me. And like, it's not even like I am looking within. It's like my attention goes within. And there's almost, I have to say, there's almost always something nice in there. And that's like, wow. Like that is so easy and so nice that, that, I know that this is in me and that I have a feel for it. It just happens like spontaneously all day long. So that's really beautiful.
I love how you said that. I love, you said, my attention goes there. That's kind of the feeling for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And, that's what you could talk to clients about. And then, if you were offering that, if I was offering that in a coaching session, Tom, I would then say, is that making sense to you? I would want to see how they were hearing that so that I could help them really get what I was pointing to by that. But I love that. I love your attention. My attention just goes there. I'm going to
Yeah.
use that, Tom.
Yeah.
I like that.
Feel free, because honestly, Mark, that came up in our conversation, right? I don't know if I ever thought that before. So we all can share that one.
Yeah. It's less of a personal doing.
Yeah.
Wow, this
Well,
is
thanks, Mark.
great.
Yeah,
Oh
thanks
yeah,
so much.
Tom.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great
Take care,
talking
Mark.
with you again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
take care.
Beautiful, thank you.
Anybody else want to?
Yeah, I have a feeling. Is it Ellen? I know you're on the telephone, and I think you tried to speak before. I don't know if you're still there and you want to say something. It's not. I don't, because you can't put your hand up on the phone. Maybe not.
Sheila, can you hear me now?
Yeah. Yes, can hear you now.
Hi, Sheila. Hi, Mark. Yes, it's hard when you're on the phone to you can't raise your hand. So, yeah, Mark, I just thank you so much. Well, thank you both, but Mark, thank you so much for all that you shared. And Sheila, the question about impact and Mark's response, really, what happened for me today is it just really deepened that when I think impact is on me, it's a really different experience for the client than when I know that impact is up to mine.
Yeah. Yeah. What makes it different for you?
When I think impacts on me, I'm in the idea of impact, and I'm less present, less deep listening to the client.
Hmm.
And when I remember and know that impact is on mind and what an interaction of mind and the other person, then it's much more openness for me. Like I it's like there's this joy of witnessing what the person might see versus what I'm supposed to do or what I'm supposed to show them or what I see is for them.
Oh yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So thank you for that. And I've been seeing that more and more. And I love also what you said about like the infinite expansion and deepening of the understanding. And that was my experience of it today. So thank you both.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing and being with us, Ellen, as always. Great to have you here.
Isn't that hopeful?
Mm-hmm.
That, I mean, the first time I heard Sid say, there's infinite levels of consciousness. It was really hope-filled because you see, it just allows a human being to transcend the level they're at, right? And so it's always just so hopeful that if you're struggling with with the way you're in life, that you can always live beyond that. There's always the possibility to transcend. So it was a very hopeful message. And it's great too. I think I say it in the chapter too, Sheila, that my work has really been characterized as discovery. So you're really continuing to discover every session you have. You're like a scientist, you're continuing to discover more about the understanding as you're there talking about it with clients. And you're also discovering more and more ways for you to share it in a way that goes well, for example, just to put a word on it. So it's kind of like this thrill of discovery that you're in, really. That's the work. And the more you can live in that, you're just in a nice feeling of again, kind of understanding more, gaining more levels of understanding. A never-ending discovery, isn't that something? Yeah.
Beautiful. Like you say, it's very hope-filled. Very hope-filled. Yeah, well, if nobody has any more questions, or thanks, Linda. Great to see you. I'm coming on. And then we can wrap it up, top of the hour. Been a delight, as I said at the beginning. I'm really, really grateful for your time, Mark. I'm sure everybody here would say the same. Great to hang out. It's always nice to have a group and connect and have conversations. So yeah, thank you so much. Beautiful feeling. Thank you, Mark.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you, everyone. It was great to be with all of you.
And if
Really wonderful.
people would like to get in touch with you, Mark, how can they do that?
Well,
you said you were
can
mentoring.
Just email me at Dr. Mark Howard, Dr. Mark Howard at Comcast.net. In fact, just if you have a question from today, I'd love to hear from you. So, so feel free for that too.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah,
Very
thank
generous.
you all. Thank you, Sheila.
Thank you. And just to let everybody know, next week is our last week in this series. We've got Laurie Kalpanos on Tuesday at 1 hour earlier than this one. So that will be our final get together, as far as I know, for now. So looking forward to that. Thanks again, everybody, for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Mark.
everybody.
Thanks, Sheila.
Thank you.
Cheers, everyone.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Bye.
Sorry I
Thank
can't
you.
reach you now.
Bye,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, everybody.